Is to the Minister of Land Information. Will the changes to overseas investment rules mean he will decline more overseas purchases of New Zealand farmland?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, it's not actually possible for me to answer this question on the grounds that it would require me to be clairvoyant on two matters. First of all, I would have to predict the future as to how many applications we would receive. Secondly, I would have to predict the future on what the quality of those applications were. But, sir, I can make one, I think, bold prediction. That land sold to foreigners under this government, which to date is about 8,500 hectares for the year, will be way less than the heady days under the Labor government. For example, in 2006, 385,000 hectares of land was sold to foreigners.
Honourable David Parker.
Supplementary.
Order. I've called the Honourable David Parker.
How many farm sales to overseas purchasers has the Minister declined since he became Minister?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, I would not have that specific piece of information available to me. But, sir, what I can confirm is that up until now, I have processed them under the same rules and the same criteria as the Labor Party did. However, the Honourable Bill English has announced that National thinks those rules were too loose and that we have put two new criteria in place, an economic interest test and a mitigating factors test, which I think will give ministers some more scope and powers to decide on the merits of an application in the future.
The Honourable David. Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Speaker, my primary question asked whether he will decline more overseas purchases, and I would have thought the Minister should have prepared to be able to judge whether it was more. He has to know how many he's already declined.
Order. That's not actually a point of order. And the Minister said he didn't have the information, and so that is an answer to the question. The Honourable David Parker, supplementary question.
Does he recall declining even one sale since he has become Minister?
The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, not off the top of my head, no.
The Honourable David Parker.
Why does he pretend that a change in the rules will make any difference to the number of farms he approves for overseas sale when the current law already gives him a wide discretion to decline farm sales? He just won't do it.
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, I think the two new tests, the economic interest test and the mitigating factor test, will be significant elements to the decision. But, sir, can I tell the member, because I do get very concerned about this, I've probably used the same processing and declined around about the same number as Labor did as a percentage of the applications. So why it's of interest? No, actually, I can't remember the exact number.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister accept that overseas purchases of New Zealand dairy land only occur when overseas buyers pay more than a New Zealander can afford?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure I have any ministerial responsibility for the transaction of the sale. I'm responsible for whether the overseas investor meets the criteria the government has set in the Act.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I think my question is very, very clear, and I'm sure that the Minister can answer it. Can I repeat it, Mr. Speaker? It is...
Order. Order. No, I haven't invited the member to repeat his question at all. The member's question was, does he accept a statement that sales to an overseas buyer only occurs if the price being offered by the overseas purchaser is higher than New Zealanders can afford to pay? I think that was the guts of the member's question. And the Minister pointed out that he doesn't have responsibility for the details around such transactions, and such matters, I think he was pointing out, aren't a matter for the Minister's consideration, because it is only where land is perhaps supposed to be sold the way that even comes into the Minister's area of responsibility. So I think the Minister did answer the question, because he doesn't have responsibility for that matter.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Damien O'Connor.
If he can't answer that one, perhaps he can try this
Order.
one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, did his approval last week...
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Speaker, did his approval last week of the sale of one of New Zealand's largest dairy farms, in fact the largest ever dairy farm sale to an overseas interest in both size and price at $34 million, will that make it easier or more difficult for New Zealanders to afford to purchase farmland in their own country?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr Speaker, I need to get the member to understand the role that I play. I do not get told what all the bidders... I do not get told what all the bidders are bidding. I do not know what any other bidder. All I do is I get given advice from the Overseas Investment Office about the specific foreign application and whether it meets the criteria of the Act, and I have to make a decision as to whether to approve it or not. On that grounds, I know nothing about any other commercial offers for the properties.
Point of order, the Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Mr Speaker, it was a very simple question. I was just asking the Minister, does he think about these things?
Order. Now, order. No, point of order is being considered. There won't be interjection. The member's been a minister in this House for some time, and he knows that that kind of question has there's no point in raising a point of order with the Speaker to seek a particular answer when a member asks that kind of question, because it's seeking opinion of a minister, especially with the particular question asked. The minister has a licence to say almost anything in relation to that kind of question. Now, a member's been in this House long enough to know that if he expects specific answers, he's got to be a bit more precise than that. I'll hear the Honourable Member briefly.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. The Minister himself referred to greater ministerial discretion in this area of decision-making. What I'm trying to establish is what criteria in thinking about the applications does the Minister in fact consider?
It's a shame the member didn't ask that question. It's a shame the member, instead of asking the rather convoluted question for which the Minister had no responsibility, he should have asked exactly the kind of question he's just alluded to now. And I invite members to think more carefully about... I'm very happy to help them hold ministers to account. I've demonstrated that. Even today demonstrated that. But I can't help members if their questioning is too convoluted and puts in statements that ministers aren't responsible for, or statements ministers can then challenge, because it just lets ministers off the hook. Question number 9, Te Ora Flow.